Hello and welcome. You're with India today, watching our special on the T20 World Cup, Battle of Champions. Now, if you thought India versus Pakistan was a big game, now the India versus New Zealand game has now adopted a much higher proportion of importance. And I say that for two reasons. One, because we know New Zealand hold the edge over India when it comes to ICC tournaments. So they're going into this encounter with a better record. And on the other hand, this has now taken the shape of a virtual quarter-final. That's why we have a star-studded show. Joining me in the studio is former India left-arm spinner in Pragyan Ojha. Also joining us will be former India captain in Sunny Gavaskar, as well as former New Zealand captain Ross Taylor in a short while from now. But first, let's listen in to what is the latest from the Indian camp. This was Virat Kohli talking on the eve of the India-New Zealand game. He was asked about all the haters, all the trolls that have been abusing the Indian team after that Pakistan loss, and Virat has made his intent very clear. Right, Virat Kohli there, not holding back his punches. Pragyan, to you, clearly from what we've heard and about all the abuse that the Indian team was getting, Virat means business.
Yeah, he does. He was very clear, and he's always been like that, very straightforward, and he knows how to go about it and what needs to be done. And as a leader, he made it very clear that outside noise doesn't bother him, and it doesn't even bother his team. And no matter how much you say, when you listen to his comments, it looks like the team is giving some kind of thought to it. I would just say that, social media is something which you can just entertain yourself, and then you can just leave it there and just switch off. I'll just give you a small example. PV Sindhu, when she won the Olympic silver, she clearly said that she just switched off from everything for 3-4 months, and that's how it is. So when you're playing an important tournament or important game, just switch off from the world. That's the better way of answering these people, because these people are nobody. They're just behind some fake ID and trying to just put their frustration out.
Also, Pragyan, I mean, the counter question to that is, why should the player be careful and switch off from things? Why can't the fans behave? It is as if to say that the Indian team isn't allowed to lose a game.
See, it's very simple. They always say that things that are in your control, you should do it. You don't know what the other person is doing. So the best thing that you can do is you can have the control and just keep away from those things. As simple as that.
Okay, joining us also on the show, former New Zealand skipper and still a current player, Ross Taylor. Ross, thanks so much for talking to us. I don't know if you heard Virat Kohli. He was asked in the press conference about all the trolls on social media trolling the Indian team, after their loss to Pakistan. I'd love to know the New Zealand perspective. I don't think they have much to worry about on that front. Firstly, you have 5 million people, out of which I'm guessing not everyone is a cricket fan. Most of them, take out or vent their anger towards rugby. And then those of who are cricket fans probably, are away from social media. So that sort of external pressure probably not there as much on the New Zealand team as much on the Indian team.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, New Zealand, with, as you said, 5 million people, we don't have as much of that social media background to us. I think when we lose, obviously you have disappointed fans, but at the same time, I think the New Zealand fans are realistic with, the way we go about things. But then you add the social media, New Zealand going to Pakistan and not, and then pulling out. I think there was a big backlash here, but it's going to be a fantastic game regardless of it being a must-win situation.
Okay, as someone who's been to New Zealand, I have to endorse Ross's view as one of the loveliest people that I've come across are the Kiwi cricket fans. They absolutely love their sport, so no question of players getting trolled there. But stay on with us, Ross Taylor and Pragyan Ojha. Let's also listen into Virat Kohli. Now, there's very interesting sort of an aspect about this particular tournament. That's India and New Zealand both have played just one game, and by the time they face off against each other on Sunday, there'd be other teams in the same group that would have played 3 games. Now, why is there so much discrepancy when it comes to one team having played just one game, the other having played 3, and some teams have had to wait almost a week to play their next encounter? Pragyan, let me start with you. Merit in what Virat Kohli is saying, that he was sitting doing nothing. How do you think this break would have panned out for the Indian team?
I think always when you're entering a tournament and playing a tournament of this magnitude, you should always take it in a positive way. It's good that the captain of the Indian team is eager to go onto the field. I think something that has helped him and really motivating him to go out there and perform against New Zealand and the other teams that they are going to face.
Okay, it can work out two ways, Ross, when you've got such a long break, and I'm saying that in hindsight because both teams have lost their first encounter. One, it gives them enough time to look back in retrospect, see the kind of mistakes they may have made, and then work on it. The other could be, and the other argument could be that it breaks the rhythm. Once you start the tournament, you want to continue play. How do you think it might pan out for both these teams?
Yeah, I think the way, I've been in contact with the other players and obviously they've prepared for this, but they've got 4 games, bang, bang, bang now. So, cricket is about momentum and the momentum against both New Zealand and India at the moment. But, they play a lot of cricket. Both sides are very experienced. This will be a little bit of a distraction, but I think, it's 2020 is on the day and I'm sure, with all the experience that both teams have, they will come to the fore over the coming hours.
Let me just look at India's perspective here, Pragyan, because we had a few injury worries, especially with regards to Hardik Pandya. We'll get into the playing 11 later, but does this sort of a break allow you to have those niggles sorted out?
Yes, it's not a big break. When you're talking about Hardik, we saw, Ishan Kishan came in to the field, Hardik was not there at all, and the whole 20 overs Ishan was fielding. So that is something which will help Hardik to a certain extent, but it's not a permanent solution. End of the day, we have to see how fit Hardik is, because it's a very important game and he has to be 100% there whenever they ask him to bat, bowl or field.
Before I go to Ross, one quick question to you, Pragyan. You reckon, because I'm talking about the scheduling, you reckon a lot of commercial aspect is also involved? India being the showstopper of this tournament, you could call them, attract plenty of sponsors, plenty of interest. So it's best to have them play over the Sundays. And because these are the 2 big games that India would have played, one against India versus Pakistan, the other India, New Zealand. So Sunday was probably the appropriate day to play.
I think that would be a little harsh because I don't think that is how it is planned. Maybe this is for the first time India is getting such a long break during a tournament, but I don't think it is planned that way. I'm very sure BCCI and ICC wouldn't have thought that way.
Okay, let's turn our attention to the New Zealand team, and because we're privileged to have Ross with us, let's get into specifics. Ross, one thing that we've been talking about, leading up to this particular encounter is the wood that New Zealand has over India when it comes to ICC encounters. Is that something that would give the Kiwi team more confidence when they take the field on Sunday?
Yeah, I think so. But in saying that, a lot of the players have never played India in an ICC tournament. So I was really stunned when I saw the result with the way New Zealand had played against India. We've always enjoyed playing in India, but they've had our number on many occasions. But it just seems something at an ICC tournament that we've had the wood over them. But that means nothing when it comes into this game. Tomorrow. But I think the New Zealand side will definitely look at little aspects of that, but I don't think there'll be too much made of it.
Okay, I'd love to talk about New Zealand, but joining us now is former India captain in Sunny Gavaskar. Sunny, I'm going to go back to something that we started the show with, and I'd love to know your thoughts on that. That was a soundbite played out of Virat Kohli when he was asked about all the trolls that have been trolling India after that loss to Pakistan, saying that, India couldn't beat Pakistan, that perfect record that they had against Pakistan and all the abuse that the Indian team got. And to which he said, people who are jobless have nothing to do, end up doing this, and, faceless people who then write things about the Indian team, criticize about the Indian team. I mean, there is also a point about what Virat is talking about, how this team can shut out all the noise. We've seen it in the past. They've bounced back from 36 all out. We've seen it in the past where, they were trailing in a bilateral series, come out of that. And one of that secret is that they can shut all the outside noise and concentrate on the job at hand.
Yes, I think that is what all good teams, all great players do, is to forget the previous delivery and focus on the next delivery, whether you're a batsman or a bowler. I think that is the secret of their success, is to be able to shut out what is happening when you enter the ground. overseas. Yes, there will be a lot of support from for the home team, and you just get used to shutting everything out, and that's exactly the way to do. That's exactly the way to go ahead, because I think what really in a team environment is what the team is feeling, and I do believe that this team is pretty confident of coming back, because it was just one loss, and it can happen in a T20 tournament. We've seen top teams lose in 50 overs tournament. Defending champions like the West Indies. I'm not trying to bring that up again, but such a world-class team, a team that had a fabulous record, and then losing to India in the World Cup final. So look, things can happen. This is what this game is all about, and particularly the ultra short format. There is more chance of an upset as well, and that particular game between India and Pakistan was an upset. Was an upset because of India's previous record against Pakistan, and the way it was a convincing win, winning by 10 wickets and 13 deliveries to spare. That was a convincing win. But like you said, India have bounced back in the past, and India will bounce back again here.
So I'm wondering whether this week-long break has made matters worse when it comes to all the criticism or the dissection and the abuse on social media. Had India played in a day or two, all these outside things wouldn't have bothered that much, even though Virat says it's not going to play a role in how they're going to perform. But this long gap, how do you reckon would have played out with the Indian team, especially considering that they lost that opening encounter?
Well, I think the best thing that would have happened with this long gap is, once you lose, there is a period when you brood over the loss. Or as a batsman, once you get out, very early, you tend to think about what happened, and then you focus again on the next innings. And I think that's exactly what would have happened. That this gap would have allowed the players to get the loss out of their system. It would have also allowed, say, somebody like a Hardik Pandya, who was hit on the shoulder, and so would perhaps have struggled to play if the game was in a couple of days' time. He's now fit, so everybody is available for selection, and I think that is just a plus point as far as India is concerned, because they'll have been able to iron out a lot of issues which they might have thought were the case in the game against Pakistan. So yes, sometimes I think this might be considered as a long gap. But having said that, we've also got to consider that India is the biggest draw as far as television ratings are concerned. And just like in the Olympics, all the main events, all the major events, 100 meters run, the what you call the marquee events are fixed according to the American viewing time, which is for the Americans, because the Americans are the ones who spend the biggest as far as TV broadcast rights are concerned.
Correct.
And here also, India are the ones who are spending the most as far as broadcast rights are concerned. So if India's matches are on the weekends or on Sundays, one has to take that into account as well.
That's exactly what I was trying to get at. Ross, there's a merit in that. People might say that, oh, that's a week-long break, but if this is the main draw, if this is the showstopper of that big show, then might as well play on the day that you're going to get the maximum viewership, which happens to be a Sunday.
Yeah, I guess that's a bit above my pay grade, but no, I think regardless of what it is, the game of cricket needs money, and whoever the team is, to fill that time slot and to be in there, it's nice for New Zealand to get that prime time spot. I can't say that would have probably been the case at the start of my career, but it's something that the team should be proud of, that they're seen around the world, and that's such a positive light. But I can't wait for this game. Both teams need to win. It should be a fantastic event.
All right, it's all down to all the times that Ross, that New Zealand has beaten India in these ICC tournaments, so which is why it's now become one of those marquee clashes. But on that subject, Ross, I'd love to come to you as well. What would be that one thing? We'll talk about things that India need to watch out for versus New Zealand. But tell me, from a New Zealand perspective, what is that one thing that the New Zealand team would be wary of when they take on the Indians?
Well, I think if there was any time to play India, it was in that first game, and Pakistan. I wouldn't say caught them on the hop, but got that one over them. There's definitely not going to be a complacency in this Indian side. They know what they need to do to win, and New Zealand don't have that surprise element that they might have had, like when we beat them in the first game in the 2016 World Cup. there will be none of that come here. But New Zealand know that Kohli's a big part of this team, and trying to shut him down and from a batting and a captaincy point of view is going to go a long way to stifling a little bit of their momentum, regardless of whether we bat or bowl first.
So anyway, why do you reckon that this is that banana skin game for India versus New Zealand? We were referring to that record. I'm taking a look at India's success rate versus New Zealand. It's the lowest compared to any other team at 25% is that winning percentage. Why do you think New Zealand posed such a challenge to the Indian team?
Because New Zealand have always had world-class players. And one of the biggest advantages that New Zealand has always had is all these world-class players have somehow or the other flown under the radar. So not a lot of talk is heard about the New Zealand players, but they have the capability of upsetting the apple cart. We have seen time and time again. Look at the number of times New Zealand has been in the finals of the 50 overs World Cup. Now, that's a tremendous achievement. They've always virtually been in the knockouts, in the semi-finals of just about every tournament that you can think of, the World Cup tournament. The first ever Champions Trophy, I think they won way back in Kenya. So they are a team that actually likes to stay under the radar, and that is where the surprise element comes in, as Ross was telling. They have some players about whom the world doesn't know too much. So maybe there's not that much data available as to what those players' strengths and weaknesses are, and therefore suddenly when you encounter them, they can surprise you. Also, I think it is a very well-rounded team. It's a terrific mixture of youth and experience. You see some of the newer guys in the team who are very good T20 players. They've got the experience of Williamson. They've got Saudi. They've got Trent Boult. It is a top team, and that's why it is a banana peel game for India tomorrow.
Pragyan, thoughts from you on this, versus New Zealand. You've also played against New Zealand. What is it that makes them so dangerous when it comes to very crucial World Cup or ICC encounters?
I think as rightly Sunnybai said that this team stays a very close unit. They always fly under the radar, and it's like they balance it very well. That's what I feel. They don't take the pressure too much, and every time you talk about ICC event, nobody keeps New Zealand as their favorites. That is the reason maybe they don't have that extra pressure. When you talk about India, every time India is playing any tournaments, there is extra pressure on them. So I feel that is the biggest difference. Skill-wise, both the teams are brilliant, superb, just there. But when you talk about pressure, you know how it happens in India and how it is in New Zealand.
All right, Pragyan Ojha, Sunny Gavaskar, Ross Taylor, stay on with us. Plenty to talk about as far as the New Zealand team is concerned. We're going to take a short break, but on the other side, we'll take a look at some specifics from the Kiwi team. A few very key matchups that could really eventually have a very, very big impact on the result of the encounter.